When bombs rained down during World War II, survival often came down to quick thinking and resourcefulness. Ordinary families who had little more than broken furniture, scraps of wood, and household odds and ends managed to transform these remnants into life-saving shelter fixes. These were not just makeshift repairs, but clever adaptations that kept families alive in the darkest of times. Today, looking back at these forgotten tricks reveals not only the ingenuity of those who lived through the war, but also practical lessons that anyone interested in survival and resilience can still apply. Families turned broken bed frames into reinforcement beams, wood was in short supply, and buying construction material during the war was nearly impossible. Families who had broken wooden beds or damaged tables would strip the wood down into planks and use them as reinforcement beams inside Anderson shelters or even beneath staircases where people often hid. By securing the frames against walls or creating support arches, they prevented soil from caving in or debris from collapsing during air raids. In a modern setting, the same principle can be applied in storm shelters or basements by recycling old furniture planks to create extra bracing. Cutting the pieces to size and fastening them with simple nails or screws provides surprising strength in emergencies. Old doors became protective barriers against blasts. When homes were shaking from bomb blasts, doors that had been blown off their hinges or no longer fit properly were rarely discarded. Instead, families dragged these heavy wooden doors into shelters, placing them at entry points to block flying glass and shrapnel. Some even layered multiple doors, with sandbags piled behind them for added resistance. For anyone preparing today, an old solid core door can be repurposed as a blast shield or even as a makeshift storm shutter. Fitted across a window and reinforced with brackets, it offers more protection than leaving openings bare. Upholstered chairs were stripped to create insulation. One of the overlooked problems of wartime shelters was cold and dampness. Broken or heavily worn chairs were dismantled and their stuffing, often horsehair, cotton or straw, was packed into cracks and lining gaps between shelter walls. This kept drafts out and made underground shelters slightly warmer. The same strategy can still be used for low-cost insulation. Old cushions, mattress stuffing, or even shredded fabric can be packed into wooden frames or used as wall padding in off-grid cabins and emergency shelters. Damaged wardrobes became storage and sleeping bunks. Space inside bomb shelters was always limited, and families had to make the most of it. When a wardrobe lost its doors or stood cracked from blast waves, it was not thrown away. Instead, it was laid on its side and reinforced to become either a bunk bed for children or a storage chest for essentials like blankets, tinned food and water. This kind of repurposing showed how even the largest broken furniture pieces could be turned into functional survival gear. For practical use today, converting a dismantled wardrobe or large shelving unit into horizontal storage bins in a garage or basement creates order in tight survival spaces. Broken chairs and tables were used as firewood substitutes. Fuel was tightly rationed during the war, and heating shelters or cooking meals required constant improvisation. Wooden furniture beyond repair was chopped into pieces and carefully burned in small stoves or improvised fire pits. The trick was to strip off any varnish or paint, since these released harmful fumes, and then split the raw wood into manageable pieces. Today, anyone relying on a wood stove or survival fire in an emergency can use this same approach, making sure to burn only untreated wood. The method highlights how nothing was wasted and how survival depended on rethinking the purpose of every broken object. Springs and metal frames were reshaped into protective fencing. Metal was just as valuable as wood during wartime, and, well, broken bed springs or chair frames were rarely discarded. Families bent and reshaped them into fencing for makeshift animal pens, or used them as barrier grids across shelter entrances to stop falling debris. In some cases, they even served as reinforcing mesh within concrete repairs. For modern preppers, old metal springs can be refashioned into trellis supports for climbing plants or emergency fencing to keep animals out of gardens. It's a brilliant example of wartime necessity pushing people to see metal not as junk, but as endlessly reusable. Tabletops became makeshift floors and benches inside shelters. Many shelters had muddy or uneven ground that quickly became uncomfortable during those long nights of bombing. Families salvaged tabletops from broken tables, laid them flat across bricks or blocks and created dry raised platforms for sitting or sleeping. Some were even used as elevated floors to keep supplies off damp soil. In today's context, plywood boards or salvaged tabletops can still serve as effective flooring inside survival shelters, keeping essentials protected and folks a bit more comfortable during extended stays. Drawers from broken dressers became portable storage crates. Perhaps one of the most ingenious adaptations was turning damaged dresser drawers into carry crates. Families packed them with food, first aid and clothing, and stacked them neatly inside shelters. Since they had handles built in, the drawers were easy to transport if relocation became necessary. This practice offers a useful lesson even now. Instead of discarding old drawers, they can be repurposed as portable storage boxes for camping gear, gardening tools or survival kits. With a quick sanding and a bit of reinforcement, they remain practical and sturdy. The resilience of WWII families shines through these resourceful fixes. Broken furniture, instead of being useless waste, became the very tools that kept people alive. Every splintered plank and warped drawer carried a second life in the service of survival. For modern history enthusiasts and survivalists, these lessons are more than stories from the past. They are reminders of how much can be accomplished with creativity, thrift and determination. If you value learning from the wisdom of those who endured history's harshest trials, make sure to subscribe to Backyard Wisdom and share this video with others who respect these forgotten survival strategies.